Have a good show. 1B, stand by.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like go right now. Go to camera 3. 3, go to the gear, just like that.
I'll just go ahead.
Yep, graphics 2 is going to be up for the first game. Go right now. Go to camera 3. Go, yep, go to the gear, just like that. Q, Sophie. Wait for it.
On radio in the Canal Zone.
All right, guys, mic check.
Go ready.
Okay, Ricky, mic.
Yep, I am ready.
Wait for it.
Willie, mic check.
Yep, let's go.
1B, stand by a couple minutes.
9, 8, 7, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Okay, and go for it, guys.
All right, here we go. We are, here we go. What is going on here? Something's going on. Let's, oh, I see what's going on. Sorry, my bad. Totally my bad. There we go. Sorry about that. That was me. I pressed on the wrong button. But anyway, here we go, guys. Hey, Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and 7 p.m. Canal Zone time. It's happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. As you can see, it's a little bit of a festive occasion. It is one day before July 4th, so a little pre-happy birthday, United States, 250 years. But anyhow, Ricky, happy Friday to you, man.
Happy Friday, Willie, and thank you like always. You know, I've already lost track on what number we are on, but we're definitely over the 52 times 2 plus another 6-month show. So that's a whole bunch, guys.
Yeah,
welcome, and thank you like always for being with us here at the happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. For those of you that don't know, this is a bar in the Amador area of the Canal Zone that we as kids started frequenting there, believe it or not, because we didn't have an age drinking. So tonight, like always, happy hour, Panama beers, 50 cents, ceviche, $1.50. But get carrying on, guys. Let's go. It's a podcast, guys, all about the Canal Zone. We're dedicated to bringing you the history of the Panama Canal, its architecture, its community, the construction, the dredging, the high schools, everything you need to know about the social life happening in the Zonian community. So, guys, please grab your drinks, your mugs, whatever you're drinking out of tonight, and let's celebrate this 8th wonder of the world. And let's have a great show tonight, guys, because we do have David with us. So, salute to everybody.
Salute to everybody. Yeah, for sure. I've got my Panama-Croatia commemorative mug here from the World Cup. But, yeah, no, it's a great show. Dave's got some really interesting stuff to show us tonight regarding some monuments and memorials, some really interesting stuff that we saw every day and didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to. One of them we kind of would almost say seemed like it was out of place, but there's a reason for it, and Dave, of course, is going to tell us all about that here in just a little bit. And then, of course, also we're going to have Thane join us again. He was with us last week briefly. Got quite a few inquiries about the Substack last week, so he's going to talk about that a little bit as well, and you know, to give us the rundown on that, what's going on with that, and how you can get involved with that, because that's a really a great way to get understand how he's gathering information for this documentary and that people that want to get involved and have their story to tell. So and then of course we're a week away from the reunion now, so we're at T minus. If you haven't made the plans now, I'm not sure what you're gonna do, but show up anyway, man. A good time's gonna be had regardless. So,
well, you know, the good thing, Willie, is that it's not on 4th of July weekends where if you do want to go, you're not paying premium price. So it's the following week, and everything's gonna be barato.
That's absolutely right. That is absolutely right. So, you know, that's still, it's always a great time. The reunion Pan Canal Society puts on a great show there, and then of course after next week, we'll switch gears and then we'll Well, we'll start. Of course, we'll be talking about the reunion for probably 1 or 2 episodes because there's a lot to be shared and talked about. Pictures will start coming out, and and somebody you probably haven't seen in years and all that good stuff. But then we'll start transitioning over to the Canal Zone reunion in Panama that starts in January. They kind of split the season with us. We push and talk about one for
6
during the
months for
spring,
both, yeah.
and then we kind of jump on the other one. So we'll be doing that next week. We won't be having a show. We'll be doing a best of. I'll be at the reunion. Ricky's got some stuff going on his end over there, so we're gonna take a break here. First one in 2 years, which is kind of cool. But again, we'll throw a best of on there that'll be running automatically. So if you've missed out on some cool stuff, I may chime in if it's feasible. If something cool's going on, I may just hey, let me jump in live.
Yeah, make sure you hit notify because that way you guys will know whenever Willie does pop in because it could be at any time from Thursday to I guess Sunday morning.
Yeah, something like that. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
and like Ricky said, make sure you subscribe, like, subscribe, and click on the notifications so you stay in the loop with all of this stuff. And stay tuned because there is some interesting news coming up over the next probably 5 weeks or so involving the channel that we're going to little by little start letting you know about it. So just pay attention to that because there's some big news in the pipelines there as well.
Yeah.
Which some exciting.
It's just
news
like a bringing together of the community.
Yeah,
And
that
we've
I
got
just-
a couple of possible shows coming up. People like always, they always contact us and they tell us these great stories of the Canal Zone. And one of them, Willie, is the CBers. If you remember those
saw
guys, they're
that.
like the ham radio, but the CBs. And let me
Yes.
tell you, they had a lot to do with so much from building the canal to World War II
Yeah,
to
100%.
even through the invasion. So we're going to be talking about that. I'm right now collecting information on that. A great story to be told there. And a second one, your client and my very good friend, Kathy Kessler. Her father,
Kessel.
her father has just been recognized by the ACP because during his canal days, he came up with this computer program that they used to operate parts of the canal. Till today, they use that program.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So we're gonna probably have, if we can fit in our schedule and with her schedule, Kathy and her daughter coming on and to talk about this amazing computer program. Very similar, like to Hunter, So out of the
Right.
Canal Zone, we've got these brilliant minds that were way ahead of the curve when it comes to technology.
Sorry, I keep getting distracted. Argentina just scored in the
Argentina,
90s.
well,
So,
good,
yeah,
good,
they're in
good.
extra time against Cape Verde.
Well,
But,
speaking of Cape Verde,
Right.
tomorrow, 4th of July in Panama, you guys if you're down there, you want to go check out Austin Mamas. They're throwing a big celebration. Those guys are very, very grateful because the community that has supported them so much has been the U.S. and Zonian community.
Sure.
And they're right over there in Cardenas. So if you're in Panama, go check them out. And Willie, what's going on with Magoo's Taco?
Well, I mean, it's Magoo's Tacos were. It's funny you mentioned that, and he kind of just caught me off guard there. That's why
I know.
He deer
I
in the
thought-
headlighted me here just a moment, But no,
I know you've been
I've-
talking to them as perhaps sponsoring parts of our shows.
Yeah. We're looking at a couple of different things there. Are they one of the ones that carries Howler Monkey sauce? Did
I
somebody
believe
mention
so.
that to me? 'Cause
If
that-
they don't, we'll make sure they do.
Yeah, right. It definitely should. But we got a couple of things in the works with those guys and a couple other projects. Like I said, we got, in the next 5 or 6 weeks, you're going to see a couple of really
Willie always makes the
projects.
mistake of telling me his secrets.
I do, man, because let me tell
Like
you
come
what,
out of the show. Hey guys, you want to hear all the latest?
Ricky's version of a lock is a bread tie. Anybody gets in with him, man. So you definitely, if you got something that is top secret, sorry, man, but
don't
his
tell
clearance
me.
don't fly, dude. His clearance doesn't fly at all. So, but nonetheless, let's say hello to a couple of folks here, and then we'll get to our
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 show
show moving
going.
along here. I know Dave's in the green room standing by there. Thane's supposed to be joining us. I'm not sure if he's going to still be able to make it or not. Hopefully we'll see him on there. If not, though, we'll pivot and just move things up real quick here. Jim, good to see you. Happy 4th of July to you as well. Yes, and we'll pray for you too. You continue recovering in your health as well. But yeah, I'm enjoying that FIFA game right now. Argentina's up now 2-1, but it's early in the extra time. And with soccer right now, the way it works with extra time, they have to play out the entire extra time. It's not a sudden death, or like they used to refer to it as a golden goal. They don't do that anymore, and so. It's been interesting because there's been a lot of ties in the World Cup games this World Cup.
They called it a goalies World Cup.
It really has
been some phenomenal players.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's not from a lack of shots. I mean, some of these, I've watched some games where these teams are getting 14, 15, 18 shots. So it's not for a lack of attempts, man. But yeah, you're right. It seems like the teams are playing much more pragmatic, much more defensive soccer, and that's. But
well, the game is also developing. I mean, wow.
It is, and that's what I think that's what you're starting to see is the leagues in Europe and even in the United States now they're so big and they pay so much that even a second division team, you're paying good salaries. So you have guys that are playing in Europe and in sometimes in some bigger teams in South America and playing in the United States that are getting some really, really, really good experience. And so now you're seeing where there's a little bit more parity because 9 months of the year they're playing next to these guys that they're on the other side of the field. When these guys play for Germany and Holland, Brazil, well, the guys in Cape Verde and in these other smaller countries, guys on the field there are playing next to these guys for 9 months, in their league. So the countries may be, disproportionate when it comes to soccer, but the players themselves are of equal stature in a lot of cases because they're just as good. They're teammates, in fact, in a lot of situations there. So,
but Willie, I saw this one before we move on. One last thing on soccer. I mean, we can talk soccer all day, but this one fact that I saw today. I mean, this week, 98 or is it 100 players in the World Cup all were born in France.
Yes.
Yes. And so that's it. That's equivalent to making 4 squads fully of French players.
Yeah.
Here are the teams that got the most players. Algeria, 13 of them. So almost the whole starting lineup was French. Haiti. No wonder they did so well. 12.
Correct.
On the Haiti team. And the Congo team that played very well against England. Well, 11 of their players are French,
That is correct.
And of course, Senegal, 10 of their players.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that were basically all French.
Correct. There's a player, I saw a couple of players actually. One of them, I believe, was on Senegal that he played for the French team in the U21, when he was younger. And now he's playing for a different country.
Yeah,
so he was
they
actually
can only
a teammate
take 26. That's how powerful that French
team
is.
and FIFA's rules are very lax when it comes to eligibility. You can go down 2 generations. And so, like, for example, my son can play for Panama, even though he was born here in the United States.
Yeah, grandparents.
Right? And exactly. And his kids will be eligible to play for Panama because his grandfather, myself, was born in Panama. So there is a lot of that. And, and some of that, some people say, well, that's kind of what the open immigration in Europe has done is, all these North Africans.
No, these guys are all born there, all born in France.
Correct. Because of the open immigration is what I'm getting at. They all flow to Europe and they're born there, and then all of a sudden they're eligible to play for France, or they can go back and play for their country. Because, let's face it, with as much talent as they have up there, and the French team, the way they're playing right now, they're looking very likely to win the World Cup. If you don't make the squad,
one of the 4 French teams are going to win the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. One of the 4. That's a good one. Yeah, no doubt. If you're a betting man, bet on one of the French teams. You get pretty good odds.
Sure, right?
That's
for
hilarious.
sure.
But it has been, it has been a very entertaining World Cup. This is the first time. Well, I think this is the first time you've had 3 countries all hosting together anyway. But all 3 of them have made it through into the next round, which is really, really cool.
Oh yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah,
Canada, United States.
Canada wasn't expected. They were, and I said it myself at the beginning that Canada was in this because they hosted, but they
Panama beats Canada all the time.
They do, and Canada lately has not looked that strong, but because they're hosting, they're automatically in. And so, but I was dead wrong on that. I said that Canada probably wouldn't even get out of their group, even though they were a host. And
won
they
twice,
won one of their games 6-0. You know, so they've been playing really well. I mean, good for them. Good for Mexico's looking good as usually they do, and U.S. is looking really good. I'm really liking the United States' chances of getting, heck, maybe even to the semifinals, man. You know, I could see them doing that. So
well, they got to do it without that striker, the red card.
Yeah, only for one more game though. That's so they're going into the Elite Eight, I guess you could call it. And then
they're going to the 16th.
I mean, around a 16, correct? No, this was a 16. This was
a 32nd.
You're right. Yeah, my bad. The round of 16 is what he misses, so he's back for the Elite Eight if they get through there. And they play. I believe they're playing. Isn't it Mexico?
I have no
Or
idea.
England? No, England plays Mexico. United States is playing Belgium.
I'm a football guy, Willie.
United States is playing Belgium. That should be a good game. Belgium's not playing that
You
good.
can talk about the Niners all day long. We got
Yeah,
a guy that doesn't want to go to our practice or anything. This guy named Ayuk.
No, you see, we're not going to do that here. We'll do that.
No, we're
later.
not. We're going to move right
We'll do
along
that
into our
later.
Canal Zone history.
But
Beginning
that
of
might
the
be
month.
something
We
for
all look
Zonian
forward
TV
for
and
this
stuff.
day.
Yeah.
I know I do.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely so. And it is, in fact, that's I think Thane is either running late or he's got a connection issue of some kind. So let's go ahead and move right along. Do our quick K Pasa, get our bills paid with our sponsor, and get Dave on here to give us some cool.
Thane should know Dave. I don't know if those guys know each other. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they've worked together on a couple of projects.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So, but yeah, let's get our K Pasa kicked off here, and then we can move things right along there.
SCN Television presents K Pasa. And now here's this evening's host, Army Sergeant Bob Foster.
Good evening and welcome to K Pasa. We've got two guests tonight. First Sergeant First Class Jim Webb. Sergeant Webb's with the 227th Military Police.
There we go. So that's our K Pasa, and you know what? Let's go ahead and get Dave on here as well. He'll join us and chit chat a little bit, and then we'll move along into our show there. But in the meantime, again, like I said, our K Pasa now is brought to you by the Canal Zone documentary Substack. Okay, and these guys are, Thane and company are doing a great job of trying to capture that Canal Zone history, that memory, but from a unique angle, not the typical construction or all those things. What Thane's
that
doing
template is so old and worn out, man.
It is.
It's time
that
it's time that template changes.
It is.
That's why
absolutely.
everybody get in a Substack. That way your side of the story can be told.
Yeah, well, and the thing about it, and keep this in mind, guys, that what Thane's doing is his documentary, the angle of it is the Canal Zone community. What we do that has made this show so much fun is that community, that sense, that when we can throw in the comments, we talk about something as simple as a Christmas tree burn, and all of a sudden the different chats that come in, the different comments about, who used to steal the Christmas trees or who used to guard them. And that was part of the uniqueness of the Canal Zone community, was that, it really was not quite American, and certainly not quite Panamanian. It was kind of a hybrid of the
uniquely
two.
Zonian.
It totally was, And so the things that we did as kids, our peers, for example, my cousins here in the United States didn't do those things, right? So it wasn't that it was an American thing in the 70s. It was, I've said it before, running into Ancon Hill with my brother Antonio DeLuca and our Irish setter Odin, when I was 6 years old. Well, that's unheard of to do those kind of things. But that was unique to the Zonian culture, was that we were almost in a bubble, right? We were almost in this bubble that was, whether it was a true or false sense of security, we were in a unique place where we could count on the neighbors to open the door and let us in if something happened. I remember when I got bit by a dog in the neighborhood, first grade, I think, Steve Soriano's dad, Mr. Soriano, came and picked me up and, took me, cleaned my leg up, and then took me home. Right. And that's the way the community worked. And it wasn't something that was, these are the nice people in the neighborhood. It was everybody in the zone was like that for the most part, really took care of each other. And so that's the angle that Thane is going after with this, Canal Zone documentary, is to understand who these Zonians were, and answer the questions that who has a lot of is the people that go to the hotel, during the reunion that aren't part of the reunion. that see us out there in the courtyard and in the pool and stuff, and then they ask us in the elevator, "Who are you guys, man? What is this? That there's 2,000 people here giving each other hugs and laughing and just having a great time," and we tell them we're Zonians, and they're like, "Zonians? What is that?" And that's really what Thane is after, and so it's a lot of fun, and so what he's done as part of that then is set up this Substack, right, which is a way of connecting with people, not in a truly social media way, like a Facebook or an Instagram.
It's not like a memory bank where you can just drop your memories in there.
No, it's like a newsletter. Okay, think of it almost like a Drudge Report type newsletter, but he puts the content out there, and you can choose to comment on that particular news article. You can like it, but it doesn't get into a social media thing where all of a sudden you start getting fed things. It's the same content, everybody gets it. It's almost like think of maybe opening up the Star and Herald or the Miami Herald, reading news and be able to put a comment on it and like it or something, and everybody else sees that, but it's always going to be the same newspaper, the same news that they're putting out there. And Dave's also got a Substack, so he can kind of shed some light on it as well. And hi, Dave, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing, man?
Let me shut up now. Damn.
Tell us about your Substack. That's not the latest thing, but I'm hearing a lot about it.
Talking about Thane a little bit, he's been doing Canals and documentary for a number of years now, and you probably follow him, and he puts his stuff on the various Zonian pages and whatnot. But then he came up with the idea about a month or so ago to come out with the Canal Zone documentary magazine. They call it Review. And he contacted me and asked if I would write an article for it. So I'm going to do a monthly segment to talk about different things. But Will, as you mentioned, it's a social thing. It's supposed to get people thinking about, some good memory that they have, something that they enjoyed eating, talking, something uniquely Zonian. It's like, let's hear your story about it.
Right.
And so we try to think about topics that might evoke some memories and comment about, so people can share those things. And what I'll say is that, this is worldwide. And like, for example, there's one, I forget his name. He goes by the Intuitive Chiropractor on his Substack. But he posted a story last month about his grandfather and how he was like the unexpected hero, and he was American, and he went down to Cologne, married a Panamanian, and became the fire chief of Cologne. And during that big fire that they had, one of the big fires that we've talked about, and now he's got his he died actually trying to rescue some folks out of a burning building. And if you go to Cologne, there's a statue of him honoring him. And then this guy just talked about another story he had, because his grandfather was the governor of Cologne, and we'll talk about it tonight when I get into the land commission.
Right.
And so this guy's in Mexico City. So he has a story to tell,
sure.
And now he has the outlet to do it.
Correct. And it's relatable to all of us. And like what Thane wants to do is, provide this so when we're no longer around, that someone else that wants to know who these Zonians are, like it's been mentioned now, and it's talked about in Panama that the Zonians are one of these subcultures of Panama. And it's true, because, if you live there for any, decent amount of time, you really had that unique culture. I saw a really funny video the other day, and it was this girl. She was talking about being truly bilingual, and where your thoughts and your conversations jump from English to Spanish, and nothing changes. You don't skip a beat. You can laugh in Spanish, versus laughing in English, depending on the context and what you're hearing and seeing. And especially for us that had, a Panamanian and an American parent, in the middle of the dinner table, we could be telling a story, how was school today? And we could start it in English and finish it in Spanish. And that was sharing the story with everybody. And that became part of that Zonian culture, which we laugh about calling it Spanglish and everything. But
wait. You had to have an accent, though. We called it the Bajan accent.
Well, that was different, though. The Bajan accent was different. But what I'm getting is that Spanglish, that switching gears, English to Spanish in the middle of a sentence, and truly being able to live that. That really is a subculture of of Panamanians like the Bajan, like you said, Ricky. It really is that actually, on the Atlantic side, you certainly had it a lot more there. There was also a big community that spoke Bajan in Rio Bajo as well, right? And so these are different cultures of Panama that have been brought in that, since the 1500s, and then obviously the Canal accelerated it, but they are different, unique ones, and they all have their own styles and traditions, and I think that's one of the things that Thane is looking to capture as well is what we did
and
in
so
that matter.
people reach out to us, and they have photographs and all that stuff, and they're asking, now what do I do with these things? Or maybe they were their fathers or something like that, and so we could say send it to the Panama Canal Museum. So they're finding a way that maybe they didn't know before.
Sure.
The other part of it too is that we're the last of the Zonians. Our memories die with us. So if we don't write it down,
correct, we don't place it somewhere to keep,
document it, then we end up with, and I'll talk about it in my segment about this one story that's just permeated. Every time I pull it up, it comes up. It's called Erased, and it's the narrative just gets flipped.
Right.
And
that was one of the original reasons I started this show way back when I first started brainstorming. It was that, we go to the reunions and again, the most common phrase at the reunion is, do you remember? Because you run into somebody you haven't seen in so long, and hey, do you remember when we were in? Do you remember this? And do you remember that?
Yeah.
And yet when we leave the reunion, the stories kind of stayed in the air right there, right? And it's not like there were people documenting it. And so that was where I started thinking about it was, let's have somewhere where we can, jump on YouTube and have this where even in the audience, people come in and chime in and throw in their comments there that carry the story further. And that's what we're looking at doing. And that's what Thanes wants to do with that Canal Zone documentary. And then the extension to that of that, like you said, that review magazine, and then the Substack, which is really the avenue he's using to collect a lot of that information and those conversations.
And I think part of the rationale for doing the Substack is just the number of people that were on it. He needed a different format.
Sure.
And so he switched it over to Substack. So that's why I have a Substack, is because I'm writing on the thing. I need to be able to see what's going on.
Sure, of course.
So I need to think about some content, but basically my content is going to be comments and articles for that thing. And so we give Thane ideas, and we write stuff, and you try to recruit others to write stuff.
Yeah.
And then follow up with people that comment and have things they want to share.
Sure.
Sure. I contacted that guy in Mexico City that wrote about his grandfather. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. I said, you got other stuff? And he said, yeah. And then he floors me with what he sent last week. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
This guy's got a history.
Exactly.
Pre-zoning in.
Well, and that's one of the things that we have a tendency to look through a very limited scope of people. We've learned to expand it through some of the other I was going to say fringe groups on Facebook, but some of the Zonian vet groups and the military groups and stuff, where we've come to find out that, hey, these people, a lot of them, came here later on and maybe served in the military, got out and decided to come back to the zone, or like in my dad's case, he's like, my enlistment's up, I'm staying in the zone. But these guys these are Zonian stories as well, and some of these we're not always going to find them on Facebook, and I think that's where
I've joined some of those U.S. military and the Canal Zone type sites. And, it's kind of, I want to say 50-50, maybe not. Maybe it's 60-40, 30-70. But, whether you were military, whether you should be on that site or not, who belongs on there. So I don't comment on it. But the photographs and the stories these guys have, holy crap, we didn't experience that.
Well, and I don't think there's anything wrong with commenting on it if you're being supportive and you're,
but there's a segment on there that I'm not happy about that, so that we're there.
And all I do is I thank you for serving. Well, but even people like that, honestly, they're few and far between. But no, I would participate in those, because you bring a lot of rich history that you can help them corroborate to enrich that story even more. So it's if anything else, you're kind of giving them props, and if they get offended, well,
I mean, the stuff is fantastic. Why you serve, I want to write about some of the stuff, Jungle Training School. I want to write about that. I've never been there,
dude. I want to learn all about that Empire Range, what that place was like.
Yeah,
I
you know,
always heard about it growing up.
so-
Yeah, and we've
Yeah,
seen.
yeah, yeah.
I remember one time in the early evening from Los Rios, seeing in the distance a jet of some kind, and then firing rockets. And you know, it was practice there, but it was.
Oh,
I thought
that's
it was
right. I remember that. Me
Yes,
too.
and then my dad has told me the story about the errant mortar round that went across the canal and landed in Paraiso in the
Paraiso
pool.
swimming pool.
Yes, my dad was the first cop on scene for that thing, man. And then the military showed up, and they're like, "Oh, we know where it came from now." As soon as the army showed up, we knew where that round came from. But
So
Well,
you know,
listen,
one other
there
thing
is-
that you turned me on to, Will, is that you know, when you talked about contacting the Heart Sisters,
yeah,
you know, I wrote that song, and then you've done the work using that Suno. So
right,
I did my own. I'm getting ready to release a Zonian song in the next couple days or so.
right on.
Um, but it's part of, you know, this is one more way to get people to say, what the heck is this? And then
Right.
maybe I want to find out more about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
no, exactly that, and it's interesting you say that because we're gonna start teasing something, a project that's getting ready to launch in August. That's a little bit more comprehensive when it comes to getting not just the Zonian, story out there. It's a very important story, but the Panama story, right?
Yeah.
And the story of Panama today, Panama before the Canal Zone, Panama during the Spaniard times. I mean, all these other things. There's so much more now that Panama has become, and the zone is one part of that history. But yeah, we're there. There's, I mean,
well, that's
there's
why I
a lot
wanted to
more
talk
out
about
there.
monuments tonight. Is, you know, when the Balboa train station, you know, they talked about demolishing that.
Right.
You know, there's nothing that really prevents all of that from being demolished and stuff.
Sure.
And so I started thinking about, and we've talked about it before, how come they didn't put monuments to these guys, you know, earlier and on the cut or any of these things? And then, so, you know, basically we have the Goethals Memorial, Stevens Circle, and then a few other things. And it's kind of like, we need to start paying attention and making sure that these things get protected status.
Correct.
Otherwise, they'll end up in the same way. It's like, hey, we need room for containers. Get that
And in
that
all
marble
honesty,
thing out of the way.
Had that been out,
right. Gorgas Monument. Get it out
well,
of the way.
and
right.
think about, when
El
this thing
Prado.
started really coming to light, about 5 weeks ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it started getting a lot of chatter. And thank you to Nodier for all the effort that he put into that. But it was too late then in most situations. And so the fact that if we can keep these things front and center and always, something that, so when one of these actions takes place, even if it's quietly, it can be put out there. And so maybe those mechanisms to preserve these are able to be done before you've already, I mean, at this point, that plane had already taken off the ground, man. It was, it was done. Argentina scored. But anyhow, let's get quick announcements because there's just a few of them, and get some bills paid, and then we'll jump right into your monuments because I'm looking forward to seeing what we got going on
Stevens
here.
Circle special.
So again, guys, don't forget the reunion. They're still looking for volunteers. So make sure that if you can, even if you're going to be there, put in an hour, man, an hour, 2 hours, and sit at a desk there and, collect some signatures, sell some tickets, or do something there. But, help them out. They really do appreciate it, and they could use the help. It put on a great show, but even those people want to take a break themselves and actually enjoy the reunion. So, give them that
It
opportunity.
just runs smoothly too.
It does.
The more you have, the more
It does. You're not wanting for anything. There's always somebody you can ask a question to, and they point you in the right direction, And, so
And you get to see everybody. That's the great part.
You absolutely do. Absolutely do. So, but again, looking forward to it. Class reunions coming up, class of 76. James Slater's going to be there, and he is going to premiere a brand new video to his song Guayabera that was recently completed by the Canal Zone Media Group.
Very
yours truly.
Margaritaville.
But it's a cool song, and Guayaberas was one of those iconic, that was the business outfit of Panama. I mean, presidents, dignitaries, CEOs, you name it, man. If you were doing business in Panama, you wore a Guayabera a lot of times because it's very comfortable, but it's still considered a professional outfit, and so he's got a really
There's
cool
got to be a
too,
good story behind that.
Yeah, I'm sure there
the
is.
Hats.
Yeah, exactly. It may turn out that it's not a Panamanian story per se, but they sure did adopt it in Panama if that wasn't the case, because You know, I remember every time, even as a little kid, going to Copa Airlines or the Pan Am offices or whatever, and seeing the all the executives, everybody wearing a Guayabera, man. You know, that was their day-to-day wear. It was
Like in Hawaii with the Aloha shirts. You know, every Friday
right.
was Aloha
We
Friday.
consider that exotic, but to them, that's their gig, man.
Yeah.
You know, so
A
interesting.
lot of similarities, Hawaii and the Canal Zone.
Very much so. Very, very much so. And you know, almost similarities. Well, no, I think the Hawaiian one came a little bit later, but I guess the statehood did. But the U.S. was in Hawaii for a long time before that. You know, it's just like, I guess it was a territory they hung out in, a colony, you could almost call it. You know, before they made it. You know, it took me for a long time to figure out that was, you know, Hawaii 5-0, the whole TV show and everything. That 5-0 was because it was the 50th state. I never connected the dots on that one till the longest.
You know what?
time.
Till you mentioned it, me neither.
Right? It was like, wow,
I thought it was like a 10-4, you know, 5-0, 10-4.
Yeah, exactly, man. All of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, the 50th state, Hawaii 5-0, duh. You know, geez,
Like
way
Alaska.
I always remember
4-9.
the Cristobal band always used to play that song at the
Yes,
football games, man.
yes.
They rocked that song.
They did, man. That was
Yeah,
that
Balboa
was when
had
you
their
didn't get a
songs
passing
too,
grade.
though.
If you
Yeah.
wanted to get a passing grade in band, you had to know how to play Hawaii 5-0. That was their gig. So, all right. What else, Ricky? Anything else on the reunion that we got to talk about? Any other announcements? Nothing really. Okay, cool. Well, let's do this then. Let's go ahead and pay some quick bills here, and then we'll get Dave giving us some cool memorial and monument information here. So hang tight, guys.
Where can I find El Fulo?
He's out there catch waves.
Hey, Fulo! Fulo!
Oh yeah, I know food. I'm a Steel Chef winner. You know the food competition?
Really?
Yeah, look. Check out this video of my win on YouTube. The secret ingredient? Frozen shrimp. I'm gonna blow their minds. They're gonna be like, how did he do that?
Microwaved?
Trust me, dip it in the Howler Monkey Sauce Verde, you'll be blown away.
I love the balance of the garlic with the tang of the vinegar. I mean, it's classic. That's why it works so well with seafood.
Yeah. This combination of green habaneros and green bell peppers, it transforms the shrimp. Wow.
You were right. Dipping it in the Verde Howler monkey sauce, the combination of cilantro and sweet onions, man, that made a zero a hero.
Do you know a howler monkey who can describe the sweet heat of our original with authentic ají chombo peppers? Or the fresh punch of verde where habanero warmth meets crisp bell pepper? How about the bold tang of Amarillo, yellow Scotch bonnets blended with mustard seeds? And of course, our hot, the same great flavor as original, fired up with red habaneros for that fire. Our sauces are all natural, no preservatives, gluten-free, pure flavor and pure fire. Are you the next Howler Monkey spokesperson?
There we go. Oops, wrong screen. There it is. There's Dave. All right. So, yeah, give those Howler Monkeys some love, guys. You can order them on Amazon if you're here in the States. If you're in Florida, you can find them at most Publix grocery stores. And I do believe they are in Magoo's in Panama. I thought I heard that you could find it there. So, but there is one more Howler Monkey that is about to make a debut with us. That's for that red, that hot one there. So that should be interesting. But anyhow, all right, Dave. So let's talk monuments and stuff like you were mentioning here. The Goethals.
I'm going to talk
and
about
all those.
the Joint Land Commission. Ricky brought it up one of the last shows about the U.S. and properties taking properties from Panamanians and stuff like that. So I want to just do a little overview of the Joint Land Commission, and then I'm going to talk about some of the memorials that are, around Balboa. And frankly, there aren't that many of them.
Right.
So if you find others, let me know. But I thought of 4 of them, and I'm going to talk briefly about what I know.
Sure.
But the things I want to talk about for this Joint Land Commission, this was a committee that was set up as part of the 1903 Hay-Buenaventura Treaty that established this committee. It also they call it the rule of 1903 as well, that the value of the lands would be established as the value of the land as of 1903, not after the U.S. has improved,
Oh, isn't that
property.
interesting?
Yeah. Um,
Makes a big difference, man.
Big difference. Yeah. This is what, because, when the French came, their canal was a lot skinnier and it was going to be a sea level canal and they didn't have the 5 miles on
Sure.
every side and all that stuff. And the U.S. had the sanitation and the defense and a bigger canal. And then they were going to be
Well, I mean,
later on it
you take
was,
Balboa, and I mean, that was a swamp.
yeah. But
So
originally it was going to be a sea level canal.
right. But I mean, you take in 1903,
Yeah.
Balboa was a swamp.
Sure.
How much is
Right.
that land
So if
worth
you have
versus when
swampland,
it's
they'll pay you for swampland. Not,
yeah,
oh, well, now it's going to be the headquarters of the Canal
right.
Commission. I want
You
$1
got
million
the admin
for it.
building. You
Yeah,
got
yeah.
El Prado
So
and
that was,
stuff.
but that was established, early on, and then the 1912 depopulation order was executive order by Taft, and that's where things get sideways. But then also there's talks about coercion, U.S. Strong arming people and stuff, and then racial and social disparities. Of course, the whites get treated better than the Panamanians. The Panamanians get treated better than the West Indians. And then the case study is going to be this Porfirio Melendez, who was the governor of Cologne, and that guy from Mexico City that I was talking about just shared his story last week on Substack, and it's true. And he says, if you don't believe me, it's written down, and I'd never heard it before, and it's true, and I'll document that tonight.
Interesting.
So the first thing, the establishment of the mandate, and so it was originally in the Hague-Buenaventura Treaty in 1903. And the primary role was to settle claims for damages to private property that were caused by either the construction, operation, defense, or even sanitation of the Panama Canal, because the U.S. had a wide jurisdiction for all those things. So if you
Sure.
had a property that was adversely affected, you could file a claim. And if all of a sudden your property was in the bottom of the ship canal, you know, you had to go.
Sucks for you.
So right. So the composition was a binational committee. They had 2 U.S. and 2 Panamanians, and then they had an appointed 5th member who was considered the umpire. And if the two sides couldn't agree, the umpire would decide.
Ah,
And
an arbitrator.
And then the timeline is that these guys had to deal with claims that went back to 1851, back when the railroad was
Wow, look at
in,
that.
and it went
Okay.
all the way until 1933. So
Very
there's
interesting.
basically 80 years worth of negotiations to settle property disputes and
And
compensation.
what's interesting about that is that in that 80 years, you've had people from the United States with the railroad, and then at one point you have a big component of French in there doing things that
Yeah.
there's going to be a
Yeah,
dispute,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're long gone. And when you're handling this
Sure.
now,
And I would imagine too that as time went on and things and operations of the canal changed, impacts that weren't there before are there now.
yeah, certainly,
And so
certainly,
but we don't really think about it, and I think that's one of the things that this erased story talks about, is that people lived there before there was a canal. They owned
correct,
property, they had lives, they were doing stuff before the
certainly.
French came, they were doing stuff before the Americans came, and they don't own it anymore. They're not happy about it, just like we're not happy about not being there. They're not happy either.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
So um the U.S. rationale was that you know the U.S. involvement just spiked the land value, so they had to keep this 1903 that thing. Otherwise, they'd just be paying more for a increase that they created. So you can debate whether that's fair or not. I think a lot of people would say, "Hell no, it's not fair." But
The
that's
art
what
of
it
the
was.
deal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we got
So
a
okay.
question here.
Yeah.
What
Different
do the
colors on the
different
map.
Yeah, what do the different colors mean on the map? Is that like different
Yeah.
parcels?
I've got Will went ahead, but go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. Oh, there. So the permanent canal works areas are the gray, and then the fortifications like Causeway Islands and stuff. Those are the pink, and says lighting. I'm not exactly sure what lighting is. If um,
Hmm.
And then town sites, and then reservoirs, and then miscellaneous is the blue. And then they have other codes or U.S. lands acquired by the French purchase, U.S. lands approved by the treaty, and then Panama Railroad lands, lands claimed by private
Yeah.
persons, and then Republic of Panama, and then property boundaries.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of different things going on in this area, but basically, these guys set up this process, and just for time's sake, I won't go into in much detail, but there was the, some of the some of the issues that I will say that the umpire that they hired ended up being an admiral from the Spanish Navy,
Okay.
and so he wasn't Panamanian, he wasn't American, he was from Spain, and he came and he was hired, and they paid him a salary to be the umpire.
Okay. A little bit of neutrality there.
Neutrality there, right? I mean, you would think
You
so.
would think, right?
So it wasn't always just the U.S. saying this is our decision. It had to
Right.
be 3-2 or unanimous, right? I mean,
Sure.
4-1. So these decisions were made, but it wasn't absent Panamanian involvement. It may not have always gone their way, but
They
but
were
that was
at the
part
table.
that was part of the process.
Right.
The other part too is that it was true that there were canal towns. You hear Tavernia, Bohio, San Pablo,
Mhm.
Gorgona, all these places, and then now with the lake, Gatun Lake being built, a lot of these places are going to be flooded.
Yeah,
And
they
so
didn't
the
have a choice.
U.S. what the claim is that they overstated the impact of the flooding, and so they would say everything was going to be flooded.
Sure.
And so
Easy way to get
we
people
need
to
it.
move.
And there may or may not be some truth of it, but if anyone, and you had attorneys that represented Panamanian clients. I've seen Federico Boyd's name in there, other, Panamanians that you
Interesting.
recognize. You've got to know, I mean, okay, water's going to rise. How high is it going to get?
Sure.
84 feet. Okay. My land is above that contour. I'm not going to flood.
And what's
You
interesting
can,
about that, Dave, is that you're talking 1903 when they were
yeah,
working on this.
yeah,
Panama was still a brand new country,
yeah.
so they may not have had a
Days
lot of
old.
these codes in places anyway, and therefore you could kind of exploit that because you
Yeah,
try this 20 years later, they're like, sorry, man, we already have codes that stop that stuff, but they didn't have anything
yeah,
in
yeah,
paper anywhere,
right.
any rules in place to
Sure.
try and change
And
anyhow.
yeah, and I keep on bringing up that the Panama Canal was a military operation.
Correct.
These guys were building it to get warships through,
Correct.
and so there's discussion about how the U.S. wanted all these people. Basically they weren't white. Of course, they lived there before anyone was there, and they wanted them out. Um, and I think part of it could be is that um, they're looking at defense and other types of things. They don't
Sure.
want just random towns all up and down
Right.
the coast. And then one of the complaints is that places like Empire, which weren't in the floodplain, that wasn't allowed to continue. And it goes on and says like 40,000 people were
I
pushed
guess that's
out.
maybe just proximity to the canal and give
And I need to dig into it a little bit more. But when I see 40,000 people, I'm thinking, well, that's like the whole workforce for the U.S. And like
yeah, no kidding.
like my grandparents and great grandparents, they were in Gorgona. They got moved to Balboa. They didn't get moved out; they just got relocated. But they couldn't stay in Gorgona.
Right.
Half of it was underwater.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that number came from. When I look at the population of Panama, maybe it's just Panama City, but back in those days, I see numbers like about 10,000, 15,000, and then a third of those were Americans
Yeah.
living there. So I'm not exactly sure how it works. I'd have to go, look at the research that was done. But I
Yeah.
tell you, when I put this stuff in and do a search on AI, it comes up like when number one and number two. It's always it's embedded in everything, and I don't think it's don't think it necessarily is accurate. I'm happy to go look at it and see, but I don't think they moved people
do
out
a
of
deep
Empire because they didn't want non. I mean, if you didn't work the way it worked, if you didn't work for the canal, you couldn't live in the canal zone. I mean,
right.
when my grandparents retired, get the hell out of here. You can't live here.
Listen, it was the housing was used as a tool
Yeah.
for behavior in the zone. Okay, because
Right.
that was a way that if there was
Mhm.
people, and because my dad would tell me about this, there was people that were, let's just assume, not getting along in the zone and just doing
Mhm.
things that weren't illegal, but really were just kind of disruptive. They would threaten to yank your housing, because if your housing got yanked, you couldn't work in the zone. You had to live in the zone to work in the zone.
Mhm.
That was the rules
Right.
when it was canal zone, and so
Right.
that was one of the weapons they would use is your housing. You pull that, you can't work in the zone. Bye bye, you're out.
And back in those days, half the towns were on the West Bank. The railroad was on
Right.
the West Bank, and then they moved it over to the East Bank. They
Yep.
didn't have bridges. They had a couple of barges. So if you lived in the Empire, you were really been isolated out there.
Sure.
And I
I
don't
mean,
think
not till
these guys are
62 they have
engineers
a
and they want
bridge.
efficiency. I think they looked at that and said this isn't efficient. We actually they act like the governor's mansion came from Empire. They put it on a train and they shipped it up to the Ancon Hill and
I
rebuilt
wonder if
it.
that's why, on the Pacific side, that it didn't develop till so much later, because until you had that bridge, it was a pain in the ass to get,
Yeah,
if you lived in
sure.
Arahan to get to Balboa and
Yeah,
Panama and all that,
absolutely.
Huh.
All
That's
right.
interesting.
So we'll move on to that. So you see the map on here. This is a property map. And some of these properties are huge.
And like
Some
the railroad is said in yellow in the legend. The railroad owned the yellow, man. That's a lot of
Yeah,
property for the
a
railroad.
lot of land. But there's a list of property owners. Everyone and so they had a map on here and show the different things. So you see the legend, and then go on to the next one. So this is in the corner of that map, and I found out where El Otro Lado came from. It's on the map of property owners, and it's in Portobello.
That's amazing.
El Otro Lado, right there.
That's all the way in the
Right
top corner
there.
up there.
So when we talk about going to the other
That's
side, we're going
fabulous.
to Portobello. Right?
Right on.
Documented. That's the first time I've seen it on a map.
Yes. And on
And
an
it's
old
on that
map
property
too.
map
Yeah,
for
no
the Joint
kidding,
Land
man.
Commission.
That's over 100 years old, that map.
Yeah. And so the next one is like the area around Howard and Kobe and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And you can see, this guy Alba owned a lot of land.
Sure did.
And then you can see Balboa is, Canal Works. It's all that fill area. Amador is all gray. It's all filled. But
like
then
the
when you get closer to
Yellowstone of
Ancon
Panama.
Hill, it's kind of hard to see in here. But you can see that there are a couple of property owners, Sosa
Mhm.
and Trapiche and other types of things are listed in there. But
Juan Diaz Caballero. That's where the name
and you
Juan
get
Diaz comes from. That's
and
cool.
at the very very top of the map on where the tear is, that's the canal zone boundary up there. So Panama City was completely surrounded,
Right.
by canal
Like
zone.
Cologne.
And the other part on this map, which they did, and I'm not exactly sure how it transpired, but on the map where you see between Old Panama or Casco Viejo and the Causeway, Ancon Harbor,
Yeah, look at that.
and then Panama Harbor is in the
On the other side of Casco
on the
Viejo.
bay.
That's
But
on what would be
apparently
Balboa Avenue.
that maneuver kind of penalized Panama in some way because it kind of like took their port. At Colón on the other side, and now Panama was kind of shut out because the Americans claimed it, and that's when this port was named Ancon Harbor.
Interesting.
And I've seen them on them before, and that's it's really the first time I've seen the two together and an explanation for that. But I need to
And I
do
wonder
more
who
research.
Coakley and Velasquez is. You see they have a big
Mhm.
tract of land here next to Alba on the West Bank.
All right.
Interesting.
All right. So the next one I have is just an article from the Canal Record, and it talks about the Joint Commission finding the umpire, and it talks about how that in 1908 they agreed, that no umpire was needed, and then they would submit claims for damages to some folks and stuff. But
Nice.
but just to show that in every issue of the Canal Record back in those days, the Land Commission would give a status of what property they had settled
Oh,
and stuff
cool.
like that, and then the total amounts that they had paid out. And so, just like all the Canal Records, how much dirt they dug, how much rain they had, it's
Right.
like how many properties did we settle. And the next one, it's kind of hard to see, but this is basically executive order that says we are going to find an umpire, and we're going to pick. We're appointing Don Victor Maria Comcas Paloma, Vice Admiral of the Spanish Navy, to be this umpire and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it wasn't just the Americans. And
Right.
then which one are you on? You're on this one. Okay. So this was in the Canal Record, and this is what this guy from Mexico City was saying, is that his grandfather, great grandfather, was the mayor of Colón province, and he owned property in Bohio. He had a big house and a lot of land, and he wasn't happy that his house was going to be flooded. Bohio's
Sure.
underwater, and he refused to go, and they actually had to rescue him from the roof because when the water got high
Huh.
enough,
How
and
about
then
that?
they, as part of his compensation, the canal built him a new house in Cologne.
Nice.
But he probably got a little postage size stamp lot versus the hundreds or
Right.
thousands of acres that he
That he
had.
lost.
He gave up.
But
right.
so this was an article that showed up in the Canal Record, and it says the canal construction forces resident in Cologne for Porfirio Melendez, the former governor of Cologne, and he had to the Canal Commission replaced his former home in Bohio to a 2-story frame house, the largest in town, in preparation of filling the Gatun Lake. And so it was true. This guy's story was true. It's even written in the Canal Record about it. So I just wanted to
Membership
to
didn't have its
share
privileges
that
then.
with you. Yeah, I mean, so like this guy, he was the mayor of Cologne. He wasn't immune to being pushed out because and we know how high the water got in Bohio. So in that case, the U.S. government was being honest with these guys. Were there other properties that they weren't? Possibly. I mean, everything's possible. But and then if you go on to the next one in the Canal Record, this is 1914, and it basically says, "All right, everyone, we're putting you on notice. That you're being notified that if you have a claim to file, you better file it because it's running out." So for years and years, this went on, and they tried to reach out to folks to to settle these claims. And as we know now, it went to 1933 that it took them before they finally closed up that shop. So
Wow.
so
Extending it.
yeah, there's a whole big process, and I'm sure some people felt that they got a raw deal, and probably no one thought they got a fair deal. But
Well,
but
sucks for them.
it sucks for them. Yeah,
Eminent
so,
domain.
Yeah.
eminent domain. Yeah. So the other thing I found is that this house that was in Ancon, it was called the Admiral's House. You ever heard of it?
Never.
And this said they called it as a landmark, the Admiral's House on 4th of July Avenue near the District Court. So remember the District Court? We showed
Okay.
that picture. That
Yeah, up on Herrick
so
Road.
right down. I guess now maybe there's a church or some type
Oh,
of
I'm
temple
sure there's all kinds of shit.
down on that right on that corner.
No Canal Zone roads or areas were sacred, man.
But it said that this house used to house the land committee for a time. So that's where they held their business at. It was right there. So I'd never heard of that house. I'd never seen a
No.
picture of that house, and now I found out that where it was and what it was used for. It was other things too, but
It has all the Canal Zone architectural features.
It sure does. Built by the same people.
All right. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the monuments.
Oh, how beautiful. What a great shot.
And, you've probably seen this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or lady.
On the way to baseball, on the way to football.
Yeah.
All right. And, I always kind of wondered, like, where it was. And I remember as a kid, it was located in a different area, but I never really knew the story behind it.
I always remembered it by the fire station. That was all my memory of it.
Yeah.
Wasn't it before there? No, it was somewhere else before that.
Yeah.
What
Well,
was
I've got a
going on
picture
here?
that shows it. But the history behind this was that in the '60s, the Boy Scouts, kind of nationwide, um, were trying to promote these liberty statues as a monument, and they created about 200. So they about
Wow.
200 of these were either prepared or purchased or donated by Boy Scouts, across the U.S. and now Panama. Um, and so it's one of several. But so
Very cool.
that's why there's one in the Canal Zone. It
Yeah.
was a Boy Scout sponsored event.
It'd be interesting to see how they managed to pull that off to get one down in Panama.
Well, put it on the Cristobal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, who made the arrangement? Who actually?
Yeah.
Because I imagine it was more than 100 Boy Scout organizations that probably wanted one of these. How did
Yeah.
how did Panama
Yeah,
get?
but
sure
you
the
know
Canal Zone got dibs.
the Zonians had really good financial drives.
Sure. Well, and
They were well
the Canal Zone
organized.
had
I mean,
clout. The Canal Zone
mail-
was a project that put the United States on the map around the world, and so Canal Zone had clout in America.
Yeah,
That
Listen,
it
to
did.
deliver mail within a 3-day time
I mean,
period was
the
because of
governor
the
could
Canal
make a
Zone.
proclamation, and every worker would get it.
Right. That's true.
Where
Yep.
if you worked for Ford, 1/5 of the city may have worked for Ford, but the other 4/5 they didn't work there. They're not getting the memo.
Right.
So,
We found out where this monument is now located.
all right, hang on. All right, so let's go to the next one.
All right.
All right, so this one is from Canal Zone Images, and I've enhanced it a little bit. But this is right out front of the police
Yeah,
station,
that's what I remember it.
and they were getting ready to unveil it. You can see it's covered up, and so these are people waiting for the unveiling of the monument. But it used to be on that little like triangle. There was a turn
Yeah.
to go down La Boca Road, and there was like
Sure.
a little triangle
Turn
area,
off, yeah.
like a safety refuge where if you're walking across the street or turning, it keep you from going to other traffic. And so it was in that location for a number of years. They must have done some type of intersection improvement
Mm-hmm.
there, and then they had to move it. Because I remember when they redid the road that went by the
Remember, they had the transit ran through there too.
There used to be a different geometric shape of that road. It wasn't that curve, and
Right.
then they curved it out in the early '70s, and then that's when this thing ended up being there. Let's go to the next one.
Well, now here's something else that's interesting, and I don't know if it's from the AI enhancement. I don't think it is, because it doesn't tend to change things like that. Although maybe it does. But does that car look like it's in where there's a divided lane there to make that right turn at the YMCA? Doesn't it look like there's a little divider there?
Where the YMCA is?
So yeah, the blue car, right? See the two kids on the bike, the car
Yeah.
right behind him. It looks like there's a divider there on the
No, it's
concrete.
a Meridian.
No, it's a
I
guy's
remember.
arm. It's his arm sticking out, I think.
Oh yeah, that is his arm.
It is his arm. You're right. Okay.
You're right. Yeah, it is his arm.
Yeah.
Good eye. Good.
Okay.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
it looks
good
like a concrete curve or something.
Yeah, that's what
like
it
a
looks like.
meridian.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, interesting. All right, there it is.
So I
It is
think
his arm.
this would be taken like from where the crosswalk is.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, so if you're turning into La Boca, you would be like where the camera is, and you would avoid the intersection. But the cars that are turning would go straight and then turn left or right, depending on where they were going. It still kind of has that same geometry, but this island isn't near as big.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So that's a neat photo to have. The next one is pretty cool too.
That's a great shot, actually.
And it's you went one too far.
No.
There you go. Yeah.
No,
It looks very similar to the other one. No, you're going the wrong way.
No, that's
There
the next
it
picture.
is. So this is the turn, and there's the island, and now it's you can see Lady Liberty was there, but she got a bigger base, I think, at the
much bigger
other one. And I remember, of course, going to the baseball
Sure.
practice, walking right through that area. There weren't any crosswalks to get across to the railroad unless you went all the way to where the Heights Road was.
Right, from the bottom of the hill, from coming out of the admin.
Yeah, but we would come out from like the elementary school
Beeline
and then cut
straight
across
there.
that field near the,
Yep.
by those big trees, and then jump
Mhm.
on the Lady Liberty base and hop
Yeah.
off, and then just run across the road there.
Run across the road and go to the kiosk there, the O'Year's
Yeah.
kiosk.
So, but this is where it was. So a lot of people didn't know where it was originally, but originally it ended up there, and it was like 1960s that it first
Yeah,
arrived.
into the 70s too. I do remember that being there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was early 70s they moved it. Correct. All right, so we'll go to the next one. Do you recognize this guy?
Looks like Charlie's uncle. No, just kidding.
No,
Charlie's
no,
uncle?
I have no idea who this guy is.
He's kind of a famous Zonian, or he should be.
Okay.
Well,
but
he has a look. Something about his look, yeah.
This guy's name is Captain John Constantine, and he was the first. He piloted the Ancon through the canal, so he's credited with the first transit.
captain,
the first Zonian captain,
and he's wearing the traditional pilot's uniform that they wore in the first couple of years.
Interesting.
See, that's what I was asking Andy if he had some kind of outfit like that, uniform like that.
All right, so this is
now they don't.
This is his plaque. So John Constantine, and do you have any idea where this is at? You take a guess.
No, but his medals look like Zonian medals.
Yeah.
I would guesstimate. Is it across the street from the police station?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
At the pilot building.
Right.
Yeah.
So go to the next one. So this is an AI that I created.
I like that. That's cool.
So basically, we gave him,
he's the guy right in the front of the building,
next to the bust of his.
Yeah.
So this would be, the second memorial that I've seen. One, Lady Liberty, I'd consider a memorial. Somewhere I have the plaque. I don't think it made it into the presentation about what it said on the plaque, but this is John.
Just going to learn the history of this guy. What he was doing down in Panama, as a pilot.
That building's on my list of buildings to do for the architecture segment.
Nice.
So yes, we'll do that.
So if you ever go down there, and I remember as a kid, you go to the credit union, and then you come by there, they had the statue out front.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Who is that guy?"
Yeah.
And so this is a kind of a picture of him, and I thought, well, this is probably the first time he's seen his bust.
Right.
Yeah,
because we tend to remember and honor people that were involved in the building of the canal,
right?
Not the pilotage and things of that nature,
Exactly.
Huh,
so cool. This would be one of the money. I don't know, if you don't live in Balboa, I mean, maybe you saw it driving by in the car, but it's one of those things that, I didn't have a reason to go to the Pilots Union building as a kid. So, but I rode my bike by there all the time.
Well, and we lived on Amador Road, so we went past that thing every day going from.
But you didn't get out of your car to go see it.
Not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
So, but this is one of the few monuments that are there.
And he's Greek. Yeah. So it'll make Jason and Andrew happy.
Yeah.
Well, they know this guy. So, he actually, let's see what I got on him. That doesn't say where he came from.
He invented the euro.
He was on the history making first voyage, and took less than 10 hours to transit. We've talked about that before.
Nice.
That guy was holy gas, man.
He was flying to get some tzatziki sauce, man.
Okay, so now we'll go on to the next monument, and this one. Can you get your bearings on where this is?
Oh yeah, very much so.
100%. Yeah, I know exactly. That's my neighborhood.
All right. And you can see back in the day, it was called Clubhouse Square.
About that.
And it wasn't until 1962 when they decided to redo this. They called it a traffic circle. It wasn't really a circle, but you could see how cars could go around it. And they changed it and they beautified it, and they thought that this would be a good time to dedicate a monument to Stevens, John F. Stevens, chief engineer. And so then it got turned into a circle, and then became Stevens Circle. So it wasn't Stevens Circle until like 1962. It wasn't dedicated until October of '62.
Sure.
And essentially, what they did is they built it to coincide with the opening of the Thatcher Ferry Bridge.
Oh,
And the
okay.
Thatcher Ferry Bridge inauguration was the day before, and the next day they inaugurated Stevens Circle.
Wow. So I bet he didn't get a lot of fanfare because there was still probably a lot of talk of the bridge and all the people that went up it and all that crap. And so,
Well, I
these
mean,
guys.
they did bring, his two grandsons were there at the
Oh no, I'm
at the
sure they did
opening, and
a
had
whole great
2,500
presentation.
people.
I'm just saying that probably
Yeah.
news-wise, it was probably buried
Well,
by the whole Panama the bridge opening story.
We've kind of talked about it before, but the bridge opening was kind of a fiasco.
That's my point. As I'm saying, so this whole thing probably got drowned out because it was the next day, and people were still talking about the bridge fiasco because it was. I mean, I remember seeing pictures of these people walking up that damn bridge, all the way up there, and it was just students. It wasn't even anybody with safety gear or anything. It really was a madhouse. But
what year was that? 60 what?
62.
62.
62.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so they were just getting warmed up for 64.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was born in '65, so I always knew it as Stevens Circle, but like my mom growing up didn't know it as Stevens Circle.
Right.
It's Clubhouse
Right.
Square.
Yeah, no doubt.
It was always a square. We always knew it as a circle. So So that's
No
why I wanted
reference
to
to
bring this
Stevens
up
at all
and show people on the map what it looked for and kind of what the history of it was.
Well, and you think about it back then, you think about that whole layout. You have El Prado and that whole beautiful setup there. And at the end of it, you had the clubhouse, which back in the day was the gathering place. So it made sense to have Clubhouse Plaza there as all part of that whole
which was the clubhouse from Empire. So that goes to my theory about, they moved Empire to Balboa.
Yeah.
You couldn't live there. They didn't have a clubhouse anymore. I mean, it was kind of like, look, we've got one, we're going to reuse it.
Right.
We're not building two. We're not maintaining.
Nobody
two,
wants to
we're
live in a
not
place
doing
that don't have a clubhouse, so they got the hell out of there.
4 renovations altogether.
Yeah, it's a
So I grew up on the house above the P.
Yeah.
And Leaf Celine grew up above the house above the A.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
and
my
I was on the other side.
grandmother.
And we
lived
learned how to
in the
play
house,
football right where it says Prado.
Where it says above sanitary office street, that second building right there, my grandmother lived.
Yeah.
Oh, with the Vasquez. That's where the Vasquez lived too.
So, all right.
Oh, right on.
All right, so go to the next one, just so everyone knows what picture of Stevens.
There's my
Circle
neighborhood. Yes,
looks like.
how
I just thought it was
beautiful.
pretty neat picture. Because it doesn't really ever look like that anymore, right?
No.
So,
but I remember
there's
that wall, dude, because I remember many a times when my mom was doing some shopping in the commissary, and I would just wait outside and just walk along the wall. It was just a little kid, and just.
So that monument is 3-sided. It's English on one side and Spanish on the other, and it's made out of Portland cement, and it has aluminum letters that are attached to
And it has a power outlet at the bottom.
And it was designed partly by a Panamanian architect. I think the last name was Metz.
Yeah, it was
Enrique
That
Metz or
field you
something.
see to the left, a lot of Zonian football players learned their skills right there.
Yes, they did.
In the Prado area.
Oh, yeah, that Prado was a field, man. That was a football field.
All right.
Yes, indeed.
So then the next one, and just in case you haven't seen him, this is
Yes,
just John Stevens,
big guy.
AI. Took him out of his chair, but I couldn't get the AI to position him right, and then you couldn't see him, so I just gave him his own canvas there.
Dave, it's funny to hear you talk about AI this, AI that. I remember when it first came out.
Oh man, I love it. I hate it.
Yes, I love
the
it.
simplest
now.
thing. It just
Yeah.
wants to screw you over. But
It'll take you into such rabbit holes too.
all right. Okay, so the next one. This was actually
Yes.
a photograph of the ceremony. They had about 2,500 people show up,
Wow, how about that?
and I don't know if it's something on the image or they've got the letters covered up. I think it's something on the. It's like a magazine that's been a centerfold.
Oh, like
that's
the
been opened.
staple. Yeah, like the staple.
And I think it's ink or something.
I would say the staple hole.
Yeah, but But anyway, it's
I would
the
go
best
the
I
other
could
direction,
find.
actually. What a great shot, though. Yeah.
But that was it. And it had a pretty good site. And like I said, his two grandsons came and
Sure.
experienced it, and the chief of the Canal Zone government gave the speech. Ailes was his name, and then also the next picture, Maurice Thatcher, who had been
Oh.
um, part of the
Involved from
Canal
the very
Zone early
beginning.
on, and then he became a congressman for many years. He snipped the river for the bridge, and then the next day at Stevens Circle.
Mhm.
And he at that point had been the oldest living governor administrator of the canal, and he lived to be in his 90s, so
Right on.
he
Good
lived
life.
a long time. So that's Governor Fleming was there, doing the ribbon cutting and stuff like that. So what else I got on that? Oh yeah, this was after the ribbon cutting of the bridge. I saw this. You can see all the people on the top of the bridge. I mean,
Oh, yes, you can see him walking. Oh, my God.
yeah, you can. I mean, it's not a very good picture, but the first steamer to go underneath the Thatcher Ferry Bridge was called the Pelican State. I'm like, all right, I never heard that before, but we're always talking about firsts on this show.
And look at all the
So
clearance. So that's a tiny ship compared to today's ships.
yeah, but that was the first one to go under, October 12th, and so October 13th was
Friday.
Stevens Circle. All right, so then we go on the next one, and probably know this guy. He never saw his monument either,
Right.
and they had originally planned on building a monument for him much earlier, but then World War One started in the early 20s, and then they had the Depression, and so they didn't have any money, so it took a while, and so they actually dedicated it to him on the 40th anniversary of his tenure as the chief engineer of the canal. And
Very
it took
nice.
40 years. for
Yeah,
them to
that
get
was
this.
quite the hassle to get that. I mean, timing was terrible to get that thing up, man.
And we talked in previous shows about
Yeah.
the different designs and different locations that they had proposed on the Atlantic side, on the side of low
Sure.
Sosa Hill and other places. But this monument, it's 56 feet tall, and then the pool is 65 feet wide, and the tower is supposed to represent the Continental Divide.
I like
And
that.
then of course the steps, they're all listed, Mare Flores, Gatun, and such, and they reflect the Atlantic and Pacific
Sure.
sides, and then the water spills into the base to represent the connection of the Atlantic and Pacific.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, you did a nice piece on that. I remember
Yeah.
showing us all the
And it's a
different
great
designs.
monument. It really is a
That,
great
yeah,
monument.
really, and that stone is Vermont marble, so the stone came from Vermont.
Yeah, they did him right, man. Yeah, they
And
definitely did him right.
the font is Trajan, in case you're wondering.
Oh, okay. Look at you. Now you know.
So, all right. So this other interesting thing that I found is that this commission, and it was for a number of years, this commission existed to get this monument.
Okay.
But they had 10 commissioners, and they were all had been active in Canal in some way. General John Pershing was the chairman of it. He had been to Panama a couple times. I've seen
Yeah.
photographs of him like on Balboa Elementary School steps and stuff. But I never realized the connection between, Persian rockets and tanks and all that stuff and the
Yeah.
Canal Zone.
Right.
And so just as one of those little tidbits of information tied to Goethals and another famous American.
Yeah, Pershing
you
was
may
a
not
World War I
know.
hero for the U.S. So he was a very prominent person
Yeah.
right after that when the canal opened and everything, and after World War I, he was a very prominent person.
Navy guy, right?
Yeah. No, Army.
Army guy.
Yeah.
So then Taft, or it wasn't Taft, it was Eisenhower. He had an executive order, and May 31st is Gothel's Day.
Really?
We need to write that down.
I didn't know that.
Or is it May 31st or March 31st? I can't remember. March 31st. March 31st.
Okay. Yeah, and yeah, because this is dated March 30th, so the day
Yeah.
before they're announcing it, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Oh, right
So
on.
that was pretty cool. I mean, it was, and it cost $160,000 to build that thing.
Nice.
Today's money?
No, not today's
No.
money.
That's a lot of money.
Just
then.
multiply that by 9, it cost $1 million or more. So.
Yeah, easily.
So,
but it was really
What was
well
that,
done.
March
It was just a beautiful
31st,
monument.
huh?
March 31st. Yeah. So I mean, we have Canal Zone Day, May 4th, but we also need to remember March 31st as Gothel's Day.
Yeah, we got you.
So just another tidbit. That's why I put that in there. The show, but then this image is kind of hard to see. I couldn't find a better image. But this was in one of the Canal reviews and stuff, and
look at that.
it's showing the rebar.
Yeah.
Underneath. So this is the pool, and then the edge of the pool, and then you can see kind of the center.
They're getting the framing in for the.
They're getting the framing in for that.
Yeah, look
nice
at that.
form work, by the way.
Yeah,
Right?
it's beautiful. Just the way that is.
Even that
great
looks
carpentry. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this was actually built by a Panamanian construction company. And
even
the
framing.
original designer
pyramids.
was from Chicago, but then they had assistance from a group in Panama, architect group. I think they were called METZ, METZ.
I'll look it up.
Look at that. That's great, man.
Yeah. And then the next one, you got, they're putting the stone on,
Yeah, certainly are.
and it's pretty torn. It looks like a construction site.
Sure does. It's a building going up.
I know I missed a photograph. I had one where they had the picture in the spillway about, they have the little architectural model, and they have the fake people looking at it and stuff. I'm sure people were at the time were saying, "Oh, this is terrible. This is awful. This is
Right. Look at that.
this is going to ruin the view. It's going to do all this stuff." But
we have to acknowledge the project management, because look at how clean that site is and organized.
Mm-hmm. That's 1950s. A little bit different mindset then.
And Will likes it because the hill doesn't have trees on it.
Yes, I was gonna say that, dude. Right on. Look at you. So true, man. I don't know what that is about Sosa Hill having trees on it.
It's because that's how we knew it. We just had sawgrass on that girl. Now, but the wood that it's actually growing there is real beautiful wood.
And now that we look at all the historical stuff there, it was full of trees forever until we decided to start burning that stuff down, man, and it stayed that way.
Yep.
And that was a trip, man, because you had ashes, man, for weeks, man. And you were fighting ashes all over the zone.
Yeah. And then right after that is when all the Balboa kids would ride down on their bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
The real tough kids would go on the face of it, and land there at the theater. Us less kids, we would go in the back, down the road a little bit.
And riding the brakes
that was
the whole
just.
time.
I mean, you had your brakes on the whole time.
Oh yeah, dude.
And you were going,
pretty steep drop, man, on the face.
You were going pretty fast, yeah.
Yeah, in that video for James Slater.
That's why, like the Jerry Curtises, those guys are the ones that went down those hills.
Well, there's a cool scene in the video of looks like somebody going down the hill on a bicycle. It'll be fun to watch. But
not gonna lie, I never did.
No, I didn't either.
All right, I'll ask you guys for a second.
Yeah, no worries, we got you, man.
All right, but then so that's the veneer stone. It's all stacked up.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm glad they brought them on that size. Anything bigger and that, I don't know, they would have lost.
Well, you can see that it's panels and stuff, but then you don't realize it. That's it's just a frame. It's probably hollow inside that thing, not a big.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, bracing.
Then this photo, this is the inauguration dedication ceremony, and they made a big deal out of this. There was a group after 25 years. They created the organization called Old Timers. Mm-hmm. They call it the Old Timers Group, and basically it was made up of a bunch of, back then the Panama Canal Society was like states,
Right.
and so they kind of pulled together and came down and made this a big event. And they brought down Gothel's grandsons and stuff. And actually, Gothel's son, Teddy, young George, was an engineer for the canal. He grew up there.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, he
And
did.
then he
I
became
saw
an
that.
engineer, and he came
I
back
read
down to
that.
work for a couple years.
Sure did. Sure did.
Till
And
today. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Willie.
No, I was gonna say that those old timers you're talking about, those celebrations, we found in that review for this was the Gramlicks. Their great grandfather was one of the ones that honored for that, and he had been the longest tenured one. At 41 years, he had been in the working the Canal Zone when it came out. It was really cool because he was front and center in that.
Yeah.
So,
So
anyway.
then this next one is, you probably saw this from
I
time to
remember
time,
that, yeah.
where it just suds over the.
And then the tadpole.
I never
show
saw
up.
it quite that sudsy, but
I remember it like that for sure.
No, but I do remember the tadpoles. Yes, I do
the
remember
tadpoles,
those.
Yeah. You go play with those guys all night, all day. I mean, after school.
But so this is another thing that I found pretty interesting. And there's talking about Gothel's life, and this is in the record, and it says that in the morning he would get up early and get on his little train car called the Yellow Peril.
Yeah.
And he got on it, and they'd go out before the worker trains would start.
Yeah.
So he would beat the traffic.
He would make the rounds by 11 o'clock. He'd be back in his office.
And
yeah, when I was going over that,
so they'd go out
construction stuff, he did that.
to construction line to Corzal, and it says here that he would walk from Pedro McGill all the way to Balboa through the cut,
talking to people. Yes. He would not rely on reports solely for progress of the canal. Every day he got out there, and he did. He absolutely talked to everybody from the lowest, whoever's digging a hole for dynamite, whatever, to get what's going on here, what's happening, how's everything working, what do you need? I mean, this guy had his finger on the pulse of that canal construction on a daily
except
basis.
for a couple of photos where he's with those other, 8 other commission members. He's always alone.
Yes.
Away from everything.
Absolutely. He wants to see it himself. He doesn't want to get
right, because everybody's a yes man. Everybody's a yes man. That's just
exactly.
the way it is.
He wanted to know for himself what is going on there. It's just like they talk about his Sunday, courthouse, that he would sit there on Sundays and receive anybody, and you had any grievance, he would listen to it.
Yeah, and I think one of them was my great grandmother. She went to him. That's probably what she did. Just showed up on a Sunday and
he
gave
did.
him
On Sunday he did. It was open house for any employee of the canal construction to come in and air your grievance, and he promised it.
Like
and he
the
would take
Godfather.
Yes, he did, man. He was very well known for that. It was his leadership style was fantastic. I mean, this guy is not given the credit he was due for getting this thing done, man.
Yeah. So this was something I didn't realize that he had done that.
And it was painted yellow, man, and people would see that from miles away. That train coming out, oh shit, here he comes, man.
Right. So the next thing I learned is that the bell that he had on that yellow car was the bell from the Alexander Lavallee. That's the first ship to transit. It didn't do it all in one day, but it was the first one to go from ocean to ocean over a period of time. That used to be the bell that clanged in his yellow motor car.
Interesting.
I guess something happened to that barge, or they just decided it was historic enough that they would donate it to him. I don't know, the history of that, but that bell is in the Panama Canal Museum down in Casco Viejo. And this article says it was in the Panama Canal Museum, and in the 50s, we learned that the museum used to be in the administration building before they moved it to the Civil Affairs building in the later 50s.
Well, and it says here that bell was from the old French dredge, the Alexander Lavallee.
Yeah.
So from prior to
construction. Maybe it got retired, but it what doesn't make sense to me is that how could he have the bell in his car when it hadn't They hadn't even filled it up with water yet.
Well, no, I'm saying it's an old French dredge from the pre-canal construction, from the French
Yeah,
effort.
but the first boat to go through the canal was.
No, I don't think it's the first boat. I think this is like I'm saying this. I think this is the first French dredge. I don't think it's the first boat that transited the canal.
No, it absolutely is.
Okay, it's not
So
what it says there, but
yeah, well, I know that something doesn't match because part of the record says that was the first
interesting.
to go.
So maybe
from,
it did after, maybe it did after they filled the canal up. They used it and it was the first one to get through.
Maybe kept that yellow car for later, but it's just not one of those things to maybe do some more research about how that bell got in there. But
and that guy looks like Eisenhower on the picture.
He
too.
does. His name is Samuel Greer, though.
Oh, that's cool, man.
He was a superintendent of the Motor Transportation Division.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
but this is one of. I mean, it's not. It's I guess in some ways it's a monument, but it's one of those things that we don't like. Here we are talking. We don't even know what it is.
Right. Correct.
And that's kind of what's good about shows like this. We'll find somebody that does.
Yes, correct. You're absolutely
and get the right answer. And be able to
that going back to what you were talking about earlier about the whole Substack. This is a great one of those opportunities where you put that out there and somebody that lives in Barbados, that their grandfather worked here and remembers that story and all of a sudden would be able to share that and contribute, it's
because when I went to the Panama Canal Museum the first time, it was probably like 3 years ago, and I saw this bell in the lobby. I'm like, oh, that's the first one. But I had no idea that Goethals used it.
Right.
So,
and I imagine that was probably a well-known story.
It's it's not necessarily related, but it's just one of those. Oh, I never knew that.
Sure,
and
but I'll bet in those times that probably was. You hear that bell, bing, 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 and that yellow car coming. You're like, oh boy, here comes the boss. You better tidy up, man. The big boss is here.
So so now if you go by the port captain's office, the pilot's union, and you see that bust, you'll know who that guy is.
You know who it is.
And if you go by the Canal Museum, you know who that is. But then also, it's like we need to preserve these things, and so I'm glad that is preserved.
Agreed.
But what happened to Goethel's motor car? Where are those at? There were 4 of them. Where did they end up?
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to see one of those. I would love to see it because it's a rail car. It was actually a car, but built right on the rail. I've said this before that would be the coolest job to have down there was driving his car along the rails every day and watching the canal being built.
Yeah, well, remember back in those days, that's how politicians used to do their campaigning.
Bill McLaughlin did some research last month, and he has like the greatest collection of Canal Zone images ever. Anytime I do a search, it always pops up. Check Canal Zone images; they've got it. But the documentation is that there were 4 of those motor cars. 2 of them were made by Stover Group. The other one was I can't remember the name of the company, but then they were modified by the Gorgona shops. So they were part custom.
Yeah, certainly.
Hot rod trains.
Heck yeah.
So
he's the man.
Yeah, and then he showed me a photograph of a skeleton. It was like dumped in the swampy area, by Diablo or something like that.
Yeah,
and it looks like the frame of one of those things, but
interesting.
It's hard to tell what it is.
Sure.
But it's like, what happened to those?
It would be fascinating to see see one of those, firsthand.
So, all right. So that's basically my show. The last image I have, it's Goethals. He's in I believe it's in Cristobal.
Yeah, look at that.
And it's 4th of July.
Heck yeah.
And I'm just amazed how many American flags there.
Right.
But so I had never seen this image before, and it was in black and white, so I colorized it.
It looks great like that. It absolutely does, And
remember that it started changing all the faces and giving people 6 finger, So it's like, now this is
think about it. The construction of the Panama Canal was the crowning achievement of America. That was the America showing the world that we're here to stay. We are the big player now, and there was a lot of pride there. A lot of Americans that absolutely loved being part of that, and living in Panama and growing up there. Now they still wanted to celebrate that American heritage. That was really cool, man.
But like Thane posted one on the Canal Zone documentary of the clubhouse square, with the flags and stuff. It's all decorated, the banners. Right. And there's another photograph looking back at the administration building where they've got stuff going on up there too. It's all decorated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then this was on the Atlantic side. And, of course, back in those days, the Atlantic side probably had a lot more people living in it than the Pacific side. It was more established. But I'd never seen this image before.
Mm-mm.
Definitely not colorized.
No, for sure not colorized.
And so, tomorrow's the 4th. I thought I'd share it with you. And that's part of what this show is just to
nostalgia.
Just remember that
Yeah.
these guys were celebrating and doing stuff, and
they wanted the comforts of home,
then.
but they were in Panama. But they wanted to be part of America, and they were still American. And yeah, it was great. And that it's great that tradition continued all the way through. For a lot of us, especially the three of us here, our age group, the bicentennial was a big deal because we probably all have vivid memories of that. The triangle hats and all the stuff that we were being taught in schools during that time of the Patriots and all that good stuff. And it was cool, man. The Canal Zone was very patriotic. It was very much a pro-America,
especially
situation.
4th of July. The parade. And what I remember growing up was from Los Rios, even Clayton, all the way down to Amador, every kid would show up to that parade in their bicycles, in their little BMX bicycles.
Right.
And then it would Balboa would be just inundated with bikes, kids on bikes, all that whole day long. Remember, we had things going on at the stadium. A lot of military stuff going on at the stadium.
Yeah.
If you recall, they had the howitzers out, shooting out those cannons.
The howitzer over there. I remember
the
howitzers. The Thunderbirds flew
the
over.
Thunderbirds would fly by, and of course, Abu Saad on all the parades and all the schools and the military and the police and the firemen. And then at night, off Sosa Hill, all the fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what a great place
this
to do it.
This was the time of year too. We'd go down to 4th of July and get the Roadrunners and
get all the fire. Yeah, exactly, man.
Remember the Roadrunners, man.
Yeah,
and remember you learned quickly to not hold that in your hand too long, sweating because it would stick. And all of a sudden you light that thing up, and all of a sudden it's stuck to your finger, man. And oh man, one of those big blizzards. You'll never do that again.
Remember the little stars that you would light up, and the little stars. Those were real popular too.
That was great, man. But you think about Sosa Hill, what a great place to have a fireworks show because you can see it from the entire area surrounding it, right? You can be on the East Bank and see it. West Bank, you can see it. You can be in Ancon. You can be in Diablo, wherever, and you're going to see
Imagine
those.
like coming in on a ship.
Yes. And what a great view that's got to be.
They're saluting us.
Right? Or they're shooting us. Yeah, no doubt. That's a trip, man. That must have been quite a sight with the bridge in the background and everything. And
then July was like rainy season, and I don't ever recall being rained out for one of our fireworks. But we didn't cause any fires with all the fireworks that as kids.
Everything was
light
green,
up,
man.
Because everything was just kind of wet,
green. It was rainy season. Yeah,
it was rainy
kidding.
season, right?
Yeah, unlike dry season when we look at Sosa Hill and they light it on fire, and then when you fell off real quick, Ricky and I were reminiscing about. They burned Sosa Hill, man, and you got to find ashes for weeks, man. You're finding ashes everywhere. You're like, damn, how'd they get in there, man? And,
and El Prado, especially, all the El Prado families.
Remember the Balboa pool? They'd have to close it. That thing would be filled with ashes, man. But, good stuff, Dave. That was really cool. Very educational and very appropriate for this time of the year, celebrating. It's like, all right, I'm out. But no, it's 4th of July. We're celebrating America's birthday tomorrow, 250 years, and so I think it's the perfect time to talk about and celebrate some of these historical people. John Stevens and Goethals and all that good stuff. So it was
and I think their monuments.
Those are the three big names.
Unless they're protected, they're threatened.
Yeah.
We lost you there for a big guy.
Hey,
big guy.
Let's not keep your eye on this thing because somebody
can rationalize getting rid of it.
Yeah,
somebody somewhere can come up with a good reason to get rid of it. And
listen, with that coming off the bridge, the new bridge, half of Balboa is gone now.
Well, the same reason some people think that the U.S. erased them, it's going to be the same.
I get you. Yeah, I didn't think about that angle.
Yeah. So, what do you got for August for us, Dave? What are you thinking, or is it still too early?
It's too early.
Okay.
Too early. Well,
You got
Dave, I'm going to
reunion
be
to talk
doing Clubhouse on the week after the reunion. So,
Okay.
just letting you know, maybe you
Awesome.
want to throw something in afterwards, but
Oh,
and
there you
coordinating with you.
Okay.
Unless, David, you want me to do a different building that will tie up with your next episode. So just let me know if there's something you want me to preclude.
Yeah.
Cool.
If not, we're doing the
thinking,
Clubhouse.
maybe next week we might talk about the
You mean next month? Because next week we're off.
I mean the next month.
Yes.
The not necessarily the song I created, but I'm creating Canal Zone scenes for every. I'm doing different genres of music, the same lyrics, and
Okay, yes.
I've created basically a version for every town site. So if
Oh,
you
right
like
on.
country music, maybe you go to Fort Clayton. But if you want a disco song, maybe you go to Pedro McGill.
There
If
you
you
go.
want a country song or a banjo thing, you go to this. But the
Banjo's
lyrics are
probably
the
be
same,
Diablo. I think
but the
banjo's would be
music is
Diablo.
different.
I would
And
say Calypso goes with Cocoli.
Yeah, there you
right,
go.
but so. But then I've got a scene for every version.
Well,
That is
that's interesting. That might actually work out because we're looking at August. It's still in the works, but doing some of that Canal Zone rock and start talking about some of these bands and some of the music.
Well,
So
Jimmy
it might-
Slater's video for sure.
yeah,
yeah.
that one will be
So I think
premiering soon.
one of the things it might be is just looking at the scenes and kind of reminiscing about what's being represented, and not have to listen to the music because you don't care for the music. You don't have to listen to it. But it's a talk show too, so we need to talk. But the images, you'll recognize stuff in there,
Yeah, certainly.
and then there's things that are hidden in there, and I think it'll bring that discussion. I remember this. I did that or whatever,
Yeah.
or that's unique. So that might be something that we do just a little bit different.
Cool. Well, that could be
But
that could be
still,
fun.
it's supposed to get people engaged.
Sure,
And,
sure. Well, like I said, August may be, there may be a lot of music in the month of August anyway. So I think if that's the case, it'll fit right in and be perfect for everything else that's going to be going on that month. So, but again, Dave, thank you so much for doing this. I love the time that you take to educate us on things about the zone, and different things that we didn't know or I mean, it is amazing. We say it over and over, but it's true. There's so much that we didn't know about the zone that it was right there in front of us, and we just never really paid attention to it. So, great job as usual.
Yeah,
man.
like that. Yes, Devin, thanks. Because the three of us have one thing in common, and that's our commitment to putting out this history. And
Yeah.
for that, we'll toast to you all day long. Thank you guys.
No, absolutely. So
all right,
it's
well, thanks, guys.
But it's been awesome. Have yourself a wonderful 4th of July weekend, and I'll probably run into you the following week in Orlando then. So, anyhow, guys, don't forget that next week it'll probably be a best of, but stay tuned. It'll be on the notifications. The following week, again, we'll kick back on with a live show, but we may pop in Friday night depending on how things are going.
Or actually any day. Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yep, you got it. So, but anyhow,
I'll be on
great job
standby.
again. Yep, you got it. So anyhow, Dave, have a great weekend, brother. We will
All right.
talk to you
Thanks,
later.
David.
Cheers.
All right, later.
All right.
Como
Good stuff,
siempre,
man.
mano. Como
That was-
siempre, mano. Awesome show, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
We just learned so much.
It is. It's amazing. So much that we just took for granted, and it's there, and it's a shame that, and part of it, especially for you and I, for example, our era of growing up in a zone was still young, right? Where we didn't look at things that way and appreciate them. Where maybe later on we would have said, hey, let's get a camera and start taking pictures of this, man, because in the future this is going to be something valuable. We're going to want to have these things, right? And you know, we look back now and go, man, I mean, this whole era of the Canal Zone in the cell phone era when everybody had phones, we would have had so much material to pick up off of, you know, that now we yearn for it and stuff. So, but
I was lucky. I grew up with, you know, the Curtises and the Reinhardts, and these guys were always, you know, and the Canton Zeros.
Sure.
They're always exploring and you know, doing that kind of stuff. So I got lucky to see a lot of the canals. But like you said, we never documented it.
No, exactly. We just took it for granted. It wasn't that big a deal.
You know, boys don't take pictures. You know, that's the word. That's the last thing you're gonna do with, you know, hanging out with my gang.
Yeah. So,
but anyway, up with a camera.
Everybody have a great time.
Yes.
Looking forward to seeing people
There's
at the
our
reunion next week. And then we will get back on the air in 2 weeks with some awesome architecture. So, Ricky, have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you,
Cheers.
everybody.
Salud. Get us out of here, man.
Enjoy your 4th of July. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We love bringing you guys this show. See you in a couple of weeks. Gracias.
Cheers.